Our learning sponsors, a year of learning by the Friends of Nina Monesta, Nechama Asma Bad Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecha Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka, Isaac and Evely Blachor in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Issa. A month of learning by Mark Linder in memory of his mother, Yona Bat Zalman Leib, by Rabbi Isaac Schmerler in memory of his wife, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac, by the Friends of Marilyn Schmerler in her memory, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. We have a week of learning by Alan Blumenfeld in memory of his father, Gershon Ben Hachaver Pinchas Cohen, by David Mindel Cheslow in memory of his mother, Bela Bas Meir, by Sam and Shifra Coleman in memory of his father, Yaakov Ben Shmuel. Yeah. Today being the 11th, we have a day of learning plus Torah fun by Madeline and Dr. Zev Stern in memory of their mothers, Chaya Basha Bas Menachem Manis, okay, and Rivka Bas Aharon Yechiel. And that is it. Also, we continue to recite a Refuah Shlema for Peret Simach ben Yaakov Yitzchak and for the Katan Moshe Ruvain ben Sima Tebela. Hashem is having Aliyah, Crank Rafia Velti Shir Shem Atzliah, V'chol B'nai Yisrael Good Gaben Shtia. This last young man, Moshe Ruvain ben Sima Tebela, I don't know if you heard, this was the young man who was at Camp Levi and got hit by a pitched ball in the chest and then had a heart attack. 9 years old. Can you imagine? So, and they helicoptered him to the hospital. I haven't heard anything further. All I knew is that people from here who were up north who knew the family asked that the community here start reciting Tehillim and other things for the young man. Do I know his English name? No, I don't know. Okay.
They have some guests today.
They've been joining this year. That's nice.
Welcome.
Good morning, Zev.
Good morning.
Right,
How are you?
right.
I don't see you regularly, so
This thing you gotta throw away. I'll sell it.
you sell it
How much you want for it?
from my teapot.
No, the roller, the roller.
Oh, the rover. I paid what? I had two of them. I bought the first one. I paid about $400 for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
expensive. Medicare will give you back your money.
I don't think Medicare supports that. I didn't ask Medicare anyhow. I just bought it.
All right. Okay, we'll get started on the bottom of Lamed Hey Amud Beis. Very quickly, we had a Braita there, right? Tana Rabbanan says the Braita, Arayot, Ushniot, La Arayot. Those were the forbidden relatives and secondary forbidden relatives that are prohibited by the Rabbanim. Okay, what happens? Ein lehem lo knas v'lo pitui. They have neither a fine nor the issue of seduction. Okay, hamam enet, one who refuses. Okay, and we said that could be a young girl that refuses to marry somebody that her father or her brother and mother would arrange for her if there is no father. Okay, what happens there, says the Mishnah, they Braita?
I thought there was only meaning by the father, by the brother and the mother, not by the father.
Yes.
That's
not because the father is Minotaur.
Father's Minotaur, but that and Miyun is only Dirabanan, but
Right, that's right.
but there could be issues. Okay, Ein lehem lo knas, right? Ein la lo knas v'lo pitui, right? Remember, we got into that discussion also with the fact with the could he sell her? Remember, we had that issue too, instead of giving her for marriage. Okay, Ailonit ein la. Okay, so in regards to the Ailonit, lo knas v'lo pitui. Right? Vayotzeit mishum shem ra, ein la lo knas v'lo pitui. So the Braita listed all of these categories where there is no penalty for the rape, okay, and there is no declaration of seduction, okay? So the Gemara now is going to go on and discuss today each one of those examples and try to clarify the situation. That's why we reviewed the Braita. So my arayot, my shniot l'arayot, what do we mean by forbidden relatives of the first degree and second degree, right? Lema arayot mamash, which we get, it brings us to our today's daf, Lamed Vav. Actually, all right, first, well, not here. Okay, Lamed Vav is going to say, right, if we're talking about real marriages, real prohibitions, right? Shniot medivrei sofrim. Okay, the arayot, okay, as on the one hand, but on the other hand, the shniot are only rabbinically prohibited, right? Kevan de midoraita, since from the Torah, in theory, one could actually marry such women, right? Chaziale, shouldn't they be suitable in that situation also to have knas and pitui? Is the Gemara's comment. Amai, right? Amai ein lehen knas. Why is there no penalty there? Okay. Ela arayot chai mitot. Okay, but rather if there's a situation where it's actual first degree prohibited from the Torah, okay, then there's the death penalty, mitot beitin, that the Beis Din can put them to death. Shniot chai kritut. Okay, whereas the second degree prohibited relations, okay, there it's the punishment is death by karet. Aval chayve lavin yesh lehen knas. But where in those situations it is, in quotes, simply a lav, a prohibition that they should marry them, there we might say that there is the penalty. Okay, that's where we stopped yesterday. Okay, so now we pick up the new material. Umani, according to whom? Shimon Hatemanihi. It's according to Shimon the Hatemani. Ika da Amre, and there are others who say the following. Arayot, in regards to the first degree prohibited relations, chayve mitot beitin, that therefore, v'chayve kritut, shniot, chayve la'avin. Okay, mani. Okay, that with regards to arayot, there they are punishable by the court giving them a death penalty. Okay, and also karet. Okay, for shniot, that's chayve lavin. Okay, that would be simply a rabbinic prohibition.
No,
Okay,
the Torah.
because the Torah, well, the punishment
Chayve
is
Lavan, so it's not a
the
rabbinic.
Torah. No, the punishment is rabbinic, but the Torah prohibits it outright. Okay,
Chayve Lavan
right. Right.
is a lav in the Torah.
It's a lav in the Torah, so it's a prohibition by the Torah. But the question of who does the punishment also, that's part of it.
It's a malchus.
Right,
So that's-
which is the based in would put. Right? That's the Mani.
Lisa?
No, not for a chayav lavin. Okay, so mani, according to whom? Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. It's according to somebody else, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. Okay, now we get more detail to the next example in the Braita, which was the mam enet. Hamam enet ein la lo knas v'lo pitui. That's what the Braita said. Haktana ba'alma itla. But if she's a minor, okay, shouldn't she there be a knas in that regard? So why is it then that we say that there's no knas or pitui there? Mani, according to whom? Rabbananhi. It's the view of the rabbis. The Amre, as they say, Ktana yesh la knas. But they say that the rape of a minor child, okay, would require a penalty,
Would
the payment,
require.
okay,
Right.
right? Ema Sefer. But I would say look later on in that Braita and see what it says. Ailunit ein la lo knas velo pitui. Okay, that a woman who is not capable of sexual reproduction, there is no knas and no pitui. And therefore, you might argue that maybe the katana, since we don't know what her status is later on, okay, she could be somewhat similar in status then to the Ilanit, okay? Or it could be that actually she turns out later to be an Ilanit, and therefore there we say there's no knas,
Why?
okay?
Why there's no class if you work with the minor?
Well, the issue is we're going to get to a point where the Gemara is going to say,
Whether the Torah is only talking about a naira.
okay, our original Mishnah, first of all, said it was a girl between 12 and 12 and a half. That's number one. Number two, the Gemara also is going to tell us that in some cases, it depends on the age of this katana, okay? If we're going to say that she's below 3 years and 1 day, it's one thing. Then the Gemara makes an assumption that such a child is certainly a virgin. But when she's above 3 years and 1 day, the Gemara is going to make an assumption that there's a possibility that she might not be a virgin anymore. Okay, but that's a little ahead of us. Okay, so what happens, says the Gemara, all right, here now to clarify, right, that we said, Ilonid ein la lo knas v'lo pitui, ata Rabbi Meir. Now we've come to the position that Rabbi Meir holds. The Amar who says, Katana ein la knas. Okay, that Rabbi Meir holds that a minor child, female, would not be subject in rape to the payment of a fine for her father, to her father. Vaha mikatnuta yatzta. But maybe she's belong or past the age of clear minority. Okay, l'bager. Maybe she's reached, we're talking about to the age of being, okay, a little bit older, which might put her in the status of a na'ara.
No.
Okay.
Bulgaris is older than
Yes, okay. Or could certainly put her in the status of a Bulgarian, right? Okay. So therefore she would be, the issue of knas would be handled differently were she a nahara, and certainly were she to be a Bulgarian. Okay, so what happens? The Gemara says, wait a second. Reisha Rabbanan v'Sefa Rabbi Meir. That would seem to imply that the beginning part of our Braita would be citing a halachic view of the rabbis, but the later part of the Braita would be citing the view of Rabbi Meir. And normally, right, we don't want to have a statement with two different authorities presented. So what happens? V'chi tema, and if you want to say Kula Rabbi Meirhi, that the entire Braita actually follows the views of Rabbi Meir, Ubamam Enet Savar la Rabbi Yehuda. That would imply that Rabbi Meir must then, regarding the refusal woman, must hold the same view of Rabbi Yehuda. Umi Savarla. Okay, and does Rabbi Yehuda really hold that?
Does Rameir hold like Rabbi Yehuda?
Okay, that's the question. Vahatanya, aren't we taught elsewhere in a Mishnah? Ad matai habat mam'enet. Up to what age can the daughter do refusal? Ad shetavi shtei sa'arot, divrei Rabbi Meir. Until she shows some initial signs of puberty. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. Okay, now, what does that mean? What do we normally consider a girl that shows signs of puberty already at that point? Certainly, she could be theoretically a na'ara, right? And it's possible that she could even be a Bulgarian at that point. So that seems strange that Rabbi Meir would hold that Mom Enet is till that late.
But the point of what I'm trying to say, is we're going to average what the norm is here. We're going out of left field.
But you're right. But my answer to you is you're talking about Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir,
I'm saying Lachlan Hara.
no, you're not saying Lashon Hara. You're saying correctly. Ordinarily, we hold by the majority. But remember, we've always seen that Rabbi Meir does not necessarily operate that way. He tends to be chashash for the miyuta. Okay? So that's why that would be my answer to you. You raised a good point, but my explanation, I think, helps us understand why Rabbi Meir is Yotzei. Okay? All right? So what happens? So here again, we're still dealing with the question of how can the writer say Rabbi Meir holds one thing and the Rabbanan holds something else. So the Gemara continues. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ad She'er Shachor Al Halavan. So Rabbi Yehuda his limit of demarcation for the young woman to be Mom Enet is that there has to be more dark area than light area. Okay, in other words, more, okay, which would theoretically mean she would have to be about 6 months older. Okay, that would be the point. So that would seem to tell us again that Rabbi Meir does not necessarily hold the same view as Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Ela Rabbi Yehudahi. But it must be then, that statement must be according to the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Ubikatana savarla Rabbi Meir. And it must be that in this case, that Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds the same opinion as Rabbi Meir in regards to Mom Enet, that she does not get any knas. Okay? Umi savarla. So the Gemara says, is that really the case? Is that what he holds? V'ha'amar Rav Yehuda amar Rav. But elsewhere we have a statement by Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Zo divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. Ve'im ita. And if we've come to this, Zo divrei Rabbi Meir, v'Rabbi Yehuda medbayale. If that's the case, then our Braita should have said that this is the view of both. I'm saying Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. That's what it should have been saying. Okay, so the Gemara continues. Hi Tana Savarla Rabbi Meir Bechada. So we have to come to the conclusion that this Tana who shared with us this Braita must be of the opinion of Rabbi Meir in one case, okay, where there is no fine for the Mom Enet, right?
For the cotton.
Right? Okay, well, that's the case. Upalig alei bechada, but he disagrees with him in the other case regarding the age of refusal. That's the point. Okay, so going on now. Rafram Amar, says Rafra, my Mom Enet. What do we mean by Mom Enet? What is going to be his line of demarcation, so to speak? Haru'uya l'ma'en, that she's worthy, suitable of being able to refuse. So the Gemara says, V'litnei katana. So teach it then in terms of a minor, okay, and define it that way. Kasha. Indeed, we have a problem then with Rav Fromm's definition. Okay, all right, let's go on now. Next piece from our Braita. Ailonit, ein la lo knas v'lo pitur. That the woman or younger woman who is incapable of reproduction, in case of rape, there is no fine or issue of seduction. Or minhei, but we'll contradict this with another statement, right? So we're going to bring up usually another Braita, right? Hachareshet, the young woman who is deaf. Vahashota, or a woman who is not mentally capable. Vaha'elanit, and the one incapable of reproduction. Yesh lahen knas. They do have the requirement of a fine if and when raped. V'yesh lahen ta'anat betulim. And they also have the, I'm going to call it the claim of virginity. Okay, in this case,
Who determines the fine? The
based
method?
in, based in. Okay. Vaha mai lumia. So what here is the contradiction? Asks the Gemara. Ha, okay, in the one case, Rabbi Meir. Ha, in the other case, we're talking Rabbanan. Okay, so Rabbi Meir could hold the Eilanit as no knas, but the rabbis could hold as part of that other braita that there could be. Okay, udeka'are la, mai ka'are la. Okay, and if we're saying then, okay, if we're when we raise this question, what then the person who raised this question? Okay, who is it that's really raising, and what question are we raising here? Why? Mishum de itle lemirma acharite iluye. Why? Because it's possible to come and bring another braita, another
better
statement, okay, on this issue,
Right.
right? Namely, and here's now our third braita to challenge this scenario. Hachareshet, v'hashoteh, v'habogeret, umukat eitz. 4 different situations. The woman who is a deaf, the woman who is not mentally competent, the one who is a bogeret. Okay, remember, we know what that is now. More than 12 and a half years old, who has clearly shown signs of physical maturity. Umukat eitz, and a woman who at some point in her life could have had an, I'm going to use the word accident in quotes, some phenomenon of which as a result it broke her hymen. Okay,
Well, what do you think an islandess was left out of this list?
let's see,
That's a
Bob.
good point.
Good question.
Good point.
Baruch shekivanta. Okay. Ein lahen ta'anat betulim. None of them have a claim of virginity. Now this braita goes on, Bob, right? Hasuma, the blind woman, v'ha'ailanit, and the ailanit, yesh lahen ta'anat betulim. They do have a claim of virginity. Okay? So the question might be, your question then becomes more significant. If they have a claim of virginity, might we therefore also claim that if they're raped, they should have a knas? Right? That adds really to your question, right? So good point, Bob. Okay, however, now the Braita continues. Sumcha somer. Okay, what does he tell us? Mishum Rabbi Meir, in the name of Rabbi Meir. Summa, okay, in terms of the blind woman, ein la ta'anat betulim. Rabbi Meir holds that she does not have a claim of virginity. Okay, right? We're going to see perhaps why shortly in the Gemara. Amar Rav Sheshet. This is Rav Sheshet lo kasha. There's not really a problem here. Ha, in one case, okay, in other words, one text, one source, one of the brightest, Rabban Gamliel is the view of Rabban Gamliel. Vaha, Rabbi Yoshua, and the other is the view of Rabbi Yoshua. Amar, I might say, Deshamat Leila Rabbanan Gamliel, Hecha Dekata Ana Ihi. Maybe it's a situation where Rabban Gamliel, where there was a claim by her, okay, and he heard and listened to her claim, okay. Hecha delo kata'ana ihi misham adle. And in another situation where there was no claim by her, okay, would he have listened to her? And right?
Over there, she made the claim. She
Right.
said, I was this and this
This is what
But
happened,
if she doesn't make that claim, we can't presume to
Right,
make that
that's the
claim
point.
for her. That's what they want.
right? And yes, no, right? Kevan de Amar Rabban Gamliel Mehimna. Why? Because in that case where she made the claim, okay, that she was whatever, right? She was Mehemna, she was believed. Kagon zo, as in the following example of a situation, patach piha le'aleim, okay, which I found an interesting translation. The court makes the claim on one's behalf. Okay, all right, very pitach pia la'aleim hu. That's the situation. So in other words, in that case, it's very clear that Rabban Gamliel held like Rabbanan in that situation, as opposed to the view of Rabbi Meir. Okay, what happened? Okay, let's go on. Kigons, all right, that's what we said. Now we get to another statement. Vahabogeret ein la ta'anat betulim. We come back now to explore our Braita. It said that the Bogeret, one who is 12 and a half plus, okay, does not have a claim of virginity. Vaha'amar Rav, but did not Rav say, Bogeret notnin la laila harishon, that if she is more than 12 and a half years old, okay, and she is, I'm going to phrase it this way, and she is married to somebody, and it's the first night of their marriage, right? All right, to that first night, right? As we go on to the next Amud, okay? The implication is they are given multiple opportunities that first night for relations, okay? Idikataim ta'anat dami. Were it the fact that the husband comes back the next morning and complains that she's not a virgin, if his complaint was such, okay, that there was no blood whatsoever because she's not a virgin, the implication being that she would lose ketubah, right? Hachanami, here too would that be the case? Hacha b'mayaskinim. What are we dealing with here? The kata'im ta'anat petach patuach. That what must have happened was that the husband's claim was not that there was no blood, but that was petach patuach. The entrance way was too easily gained, so to speak. Okay? Right? So his claim would still be, in a sense, that she's not a virgin. Okay? Now, notice
How
what,
does she know?
because
How does she know?
we don't know. That's his claim.
Always claim.
That's his claim. She could still claim something else. She could claim, for example, that she was,
Since we're talking about a Bulgaris, it's possible that she naturally doesn't
all right,
lost the hymen, so
well,
so that's why Pesach
Could be,
but
could be any-
she's
right.
still a virgin
right,
in that
sexually,
section.
right? She could claim, for example, that she was a Mukat 8,
Right.
okay?
She could be a second wife, that's why he said, that's why he claims
second
Pesach.
wife,
but-
Or that's another good example, Zev, right? Okay,
Second wife, he can't bring any. No, second wife, you can't bring anything.
he couldn't bring a Tana, though,
But if
couldn't
he
bring
did,
that
we know
complaint,
it's a Pesach Pasua.
okay? But that,
Yeah.
all right, but Mukat 8 certainly could be a situation.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be viable, especially since we just saw it raised in the bright. Okay, right, today we might say because she was out horseback riding, or
Right.
she was riding a bicycle or something and had any kind of thing like that, horseback riding in particular. Okay, so what happens? So we come back now. Sumcha Somer, Mishum Rabbi Meir. Sumcha said in the name of Rabbi Meir, Suma Ein La Ta'anat Batulim. He claimed then that right, that she, wrong thing. All right, I just want to check.
9 o'clock.
Okay, we're okay, good. Okay, so his claim, Sumach was citing Rabbi Meir, that the blind woman would be no claim, okay, of virginity. All right, so what happens? Mai Tama de Sumchus, what was his reasoning? Amar Rabbi Zera, Mepnei Shenichbatet al Gabe Karka. Why? Because she was struck hitting the ground. She tripped and fell.
If she's blind, so she can't
Okay,
see, so she's more
exactly,
likely to fall,
right.
and then she would lose, her hymen would be
Right,
broken.
right. She can't see. She didn't see the branch or whatever. She fell, hit the ground, etc. Right. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Kulhu nami chavuti michabeit. If that's the case, a lot of other women could
Fall.
trip and fall, and that could happen to them. So why are you particularly saying that has to be, I'm going to say dafka, particularly somebody who is a blind young woman? All right,
More chance. There's a more chance for a blind.
more
woman.
chance. But let's see what the Gemara's answer is. Kulho ro'ot umar'ot le'iman. So here's the Gemara's answer. Most other young women would see if they were bleeding, right? Umar ot iman, they would show then that they're bleeding to their mother, okay, in this case. Zo, but the blind girl, eina ro'ot, since she doesn't see, she wouldn't know if she was bleeding there, ve'eina mar'eh la'ima, but she would therefore not show it necessarily to her mother. So that's the Gemara's
And was
answer.
it more saying she wouldn't feel it? Also, I mean, that's the
That's the
difficult.
difficult question with
Right.
that answer in the Gemara.
Right.
We don't want where it's coming from. Put a hole in it and put it aside.
Right.
That's
Or
what
she
it's
could,
coming
okay,
from.
or
Right.
she could have cut a thigh or something else and thought, which is
Right.
clearly a different example. Good, right, okay. Next example, back to our original Braita. V'hayotzeit mishum shem ra, ein la lo knas v'lo pitui. And a woman who goes out with a bad reputation, again, a rape of that woman means no penalty, a financial penalty.
Prostitute?
Well, let's see if that's what the Gemara is talking about. We don't know yet. Okay. Hayotzeit mishum shem ra batskilahi. But isn't the woman who goes out with such a bad reputation going to be punished by stoning? Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Sheshet. Says Rav Sheshet hachikama. This is what the Gemara is talking about. Mi sheyatsa aleha shem ra biyalduta ein la lo knas v'lo pitui. One who developed a bad reputation when she was younger, okay, as a youngster, okay, then she does not get there's no fine if raped, okay, or seduced. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa is going to say something else. Shmamina. Maybe we learn from this. Haishtara Raya. Okay, that maybe if this woman was divorced and we have a tainted or a problematic document, okay, lo magbinan be, we cannot use that document then to acquire any money. Hechidami, how is that possible? I lema denafak kala ale dishtara dezaifahu. If there's publicity or it's publicly known that the document that she's using is a counterfeit, okay, a counterfeit to get, okay? The kavta hachi denafak ala kala diznai. Okay, on the other hand, but regarding her, here it could be that
So this would be similar.
okay, that we could apply it to her, right? We could apply it to her that it was like a situation where there was publicly known that she was promiscuous.
Correct. That one
Okay.
makes sense.
Right? Vaha amar Rava, but here Rava says as follows: Yatsala shem mizana ba'ir, that if there was a rumor within the city that she was promiscuous, ein chosheshin la. We do not suspect that. Okay, why? We're going to see in a moment. Ella, rather, da'atu trey va'amre, but rather that there were at least two men who came to testify, ledidho teva'ata'ane be'isura, that she approached us. In other words, that there were at least two men who testifying that she solicited them for sexual favors. Okay, that's the point. So in other words, the implication is that Rava held just the rumor that she was promiscuous, particularly in a city, is not a strong enough publicity. Okay, it could be that they just don't like her, and other women's rights exactly was spreading lashon hara. Okay, but if there were men that came to claim that she solicited them, that's clearly enough testimony. Okay, the kavata, that in regarding her or is applying to her, hacha da'atu beitrei va'amre. Why? Because there were two that came and said, ledidho amar laho zaifule. Maybe we're going to say that there were two men who came and said, according to us, she said to us, counterfeit this document. In other words,
It's a similar
say,
type of case.
okay, in other words, I've got this get, I need it to be signed, please sign it for me. Okay? What happens? Bishlema hatam. That's certainly the case there. Shcheche prutzim. That in the example of the testimony of the men,
Yeah, she approached them so that
right, we could say that that could be problematic because we know that there could easily be men that are open to sexual solicitation. Okay? Ela hacha. But in this case, im hu huchzak, if we're saying that the document has some degree of validity, or the men have some degree of validity, if it's been a presumptive status of being valid, like chazaka, kol Yisrael mihu chazak. Do we say then that normally most Jewish men or documents have this presumption of legality? Hachanami, here too, kevan dekam mahade aziyufa. Since here, all right, we could come back and have this counterfeit document. Emar ziyufi mizayef ukatav. It's possible then that it could be a counterfeit document and sign. The implication being, it's one thing to say that some men might have the sexual proclivity to be involved with solicitation, but certainly most Jewish men would not be caught being false witnesses and signing counterfeit documents. That's the implication. Okay, we get.
They're saying you're allowed to rape a prostitute?
No way.
No, they're not saying you're allowed to. They're simply saying that in that case, if the prostitute claims rape, okay, there is not going to be a penalty of a fine for the rapist.
So you still could be fined from the hate of problem.
Okay, you got, right, you've got other situations. You know, she could claim, medical damage, loss of time for work. Okay, loss of time for work. Right? Okay. I mean, I'm sure that I don't know that profession that well, but I'm sure that could be a professional problem.
The oldest profession.
Right. Okay. Our new Mishnah is going to still deal with the issue of rape, but in other situations. Right? So the Gemara tells us, Ve'elu she'en lehen knas. And these are going to be examples where there is no penalty of the fine, okay, to be paid for the rape. Haba'al hagioret, one who has who rapes a convert, va'al hashvuya, or on a woman that was a captive, va'al hashivcha, okay, or on a Canaanite maidservant. And in all three of these cases, shenifdu, if they were redeemed, v'shenit gairu, or they converted, v'shenichraru, or they were freed, yiterot al benot shalosh shanim v'yom echad. If all of this change in their status occurred above the age of 3 years and 1 day, our Mishnah is making an assumption, okay, that we have to, I think we have to keep in mind here that this Tanakama basically is saying up to that point, it's very clear that the female infant normally or toddler would normally could be considered a virgin. Above that point, okay, we cannot make that assumption. Just the opposite. We could assume that in those kinds of cases, okay, where she was originally a Gentile, or she was originally a captive, or originally a Canaanite servant, it's very possible that as a older child, okay, or later on, that she could have had sexual experience, either by rape or by other means. Okay, right? So in other words, it indicated clearly that there was a different level of assumption of sexual morality between the Jewish community and non-Jewish community at that point. Okay.
It still is.
Okay, there may be. All right. However, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? Shvuya shenifdate harehi b'kedushata. Okay, that if she was a captive, okay, and she has been freed, she is still in her status of being sanctified. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with the Tanakama that would believe she is still could be a virgin and therefore eligible to marry a Kohen. Okay, Afal pi shegadola, even though later, right, but it didn't say convert. It said shvuya. Okay, a Jewish woman who had been captive. Now the Gemara is going to pick up and give us another example of that towards the bottom of the okay, which we'll get to, should get to today.
Well, why can't they go and marry a divorced woman?
It's a Torah.
Torah says.
Yeah.
Well, because he's a holy man?
Mhm. Because he's
a Kohen.
a
serving
Kohen.
God.
His role is to serve in the holy service, and therefore there is a higher expectation of how he is to handle himself. Same way that a Kohen is not supposed to be. If he's Tameh, okay, let's take that as a parallel example for a moment. If something happens to a Kohen and he becomes ritually impure because, I don't know,
Went to the cemetery?
that would be an example. He came in contact
With the sheriff.
with a sheretz. That's the example I was going to give. With a lizard or something, okay? He therefore cannot temporarily then cannot serve, okay, until he goes through a process of tahara, a process of purification, okay? So there are other examples, okay, besides just the marital case, okay, when a Kohen, all right, okay, and some of those still apply, all right? All right, so what examples are we seeing here? Haba'al bito, one who had relations with his daughter. Al-bat bito, on the daughter of his daughter, in other words, his granddaughter. Al-bat beno, granddaughter through his son. Al-bat ishto, the stepdaughter, the daughter of his wife. Okay? Al-bat bena, his stepdaughter through his son. Al bat bita, or the daughter of her daughter. Okay, all of those things. Ein lehen knas, mipnei shemechayev b'nafsho. Why? Because in all of those situations, we say he doesn't pay a penalty because by committing what we would call today a kind of incest, thank you, all right? He is chayev misa. That's the point. Shemitatan b'idei beit din. Why? Because in that case, all right, it would be carried out by the Beis Din. V'kol hamitchayev b'nafsho ein mishalem mamon. And whoever is to be held chayav misa does not pay a fine, pay money. Shnei amar. Okay, therefore that comes back to what we studied the other day. All right, call the riba. That was the point. Shnei amar, it said, v'im lo yihye ason anosh ye onesh. Okay, finishing up, that to be punished, okay, in that situation. Okay, now our Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he says as follows: Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbi Dusa amru davar echad. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dusa said the same thing. Rabbi Yehuda ha'amran. Rabbi Yehuda, as we've already said. Rabbi Dusa the Tanya. Rabbi Dusa said it's in the following Braita: Shivuya ochelet bitruma, that a Jewish woman who was held captive, once she is freed, is able to eat truma. Now, how can she eat truma? There's only one of two ways, right? Either she was the daughter of a Kohen, or she's married to a Kohen, okay? Which would clearly imply that Rabbi Dusa is saying, even though she was captive, we don't necessarily make the assumption that the captors raped and had sexual relations with her. Okay, so we're going to get to that momentarily. Okay, Divrei Rabbi Dusa, that's the view of Rabbi Dusa. Amar Rabbi Dusa, v'chima asala arvi halaz. So you're going to say, what could have happened if this Arab had taken her ransom, taken her captive? What might he have done with her? Okay. V'chi mipnei shama'ich la bein dadea pasla min hakuhuna. Okay. Gemara is rather descriptive here. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Since he, what we would call, felt up her upper body. Okay. We're going to say that necessarily made her ineligible to marry a Kohen. Okay. Amar Rava, says Rava Dilma Lohi. Maybe that's not the case. Ad kan loka Amar Rabbi Yehuda hacha. Maybe up to this point, Rabbi Yehuda didn't say what he said. Ela shalo yehet choter niskar. Maybe he said it so that the one who committed the sin would not be rewarded. In other words, how would he be rewarded? By saying he didn't have to pay a penalty. Okay? Aval hatam, there, kirabanan svirale. Maybe there, in that kind of a case, he would hold like the rabbis who would say, yes, he would have to pay the penalty in that situation. Inami, or it's also possible, ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Dusa hata, that maybe Rabbi Dusa did not make his statement there in that case. Ela bitruma de Rabbanan. But maybe when he said she could eat truma, he was only talking about rabbinic truma and not truma de oraita in that case. Aval knas de oraita karabanan sevirale. But to pay a payment, okay, according to the Torah's view, there, okay, as required by the rabbis, maybe he would hold that, the view. Amar le Abaye, and so Rabbi Abaye answers, V'ta'amei de Rabbi Yehuda hacha. But the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda here in this case, Shelo yehe choten niskar b'hu. All right, what are we going to say here? All right, Shelo yehe choten niskarhu, that he's not going to be rewarded. Vahatanya, but aren't we rewarded? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, Shvuya shenishbeit harehi b'kedushata. Kfilu bat eser shanim ketubata matayim. Okay, that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that a woman who was captive, right, remains in her status of sanctified even to the age of 10 years old, and her ketubah would still be like that of a virgin of 200. Vahatam, and there, Mai shalo yehe choten iskar ika. Are you saying that in that case, okay, his reasoning would be that the one who committed the act wouldn't be rewarded by not having to pay a sum? Is that his rationale? Hatam there, nami dilma mimane velo naspela. Maybe his rationale would be different. Namely, he's concerned that other men might refrain from because she was a captive and therefore not marry her. So that's a whole different rationale. Okay. V'savar Rebbe Yehuda b'kedushata kaima. And do we say here that Rebbe Yehuda says she remains in her status of sanctity? Vahatanya. But aren't we don't we teach in a Braita? Hapodet hashvuya yisena. One who redeems the captive woman may marry her. Me'id ba lo yisena. But if he simply testifies that she was not, she's still a virgin,
Violated.
but his intent is not to marry her,
Lo
lo yisena, he may not marry her. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, bein kach uvein kach lo yisena. Regardless, he should not be able to marry her. Ha gufa kasha. This statement itself is problematic.
Review this contradicting
Right,
himself.
that's right. Amarta, you've said hapode et hashvuya yisena, that the one who redeems her may marry her. V'hadar tana me'id ba lo yisena. But then you come back and teach that if he gives simply testimony about her, he cannot marry her. Mishum de me'id ba lo yisena, because he gives testimony on her behalf. We're saying he can't marry her? Ha lo kasha. Here we're saying it's not necessarily problematic. Hachi ka'amar. This is what he's trying to tell us. Ha podet hashvuya ume'ed ba, the one who redeems the captive woman and testifies about her virginity, yisa'ena, may marry her, may idba, but if he testifies about her, kadei lo yisa'ena, simply, if, right, then he cannot marry her.
In other words, if he did not redeem her, he only
Testifies,
testifies that he
can't marry her. Okay, mikom makom, nevertheless, kasha la Rabbi Yehuda. We have a problem here with Rabbi Yehuda's statement,
Who says she's tahar?
right? Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Ema, I might say, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ben kach uvein kach yisena. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda really means to tell us that regardless, in each case, he could marry her. Rav Huna bered the Rav Yoshua Omer, he says, le'olam kidatani. No, teach it as it was originally taught, and not like Rav Papa wants to switch it. Rabbi Yehuda, what is Rabbi Yehuda saying? Lidivrehem de Rabbanan. He's talking about it in terms of the viewpoint of the rabbis. Ka'amar lahu. That's what he's telling them. The Didi, from my point of view, ben kach uvein kach yisena, regardless of what the situation is, he could marry her. Ela ledidcho, but according to your perspective, vein kach uvein kach lo yisena. According to your situation, regardless of the two possibilities, he cannot marry her mibayele. That's how we need to understand what he's saying. So the Gemara asks, V'Rabbanan, and as far as the rabbis go, Hapodo et hashvuya umeid ba yisena. Do they say that one who redeems the captive woman and testifies about her can marry her? Lo shade inish zuze bichdei. A person doesn't simply throw away his money since that's the case. In other words, he's not going to commit himself to marrying her and have to pay the ketubah if it turns out that he really can't keep her as his wife. Okay, so what happens? Me'id ba kadei lo yisena. If he gives testimony, okay, since then he cannot marry her. Shema einav natan ba. Lest the fact is that he simply saw her. Okay, Rami le Rav Papa bar Shmuel le Rav Yosef. And we're going to see Rav Papa bar Shmuel le Rav Yosef. What does he do? He raises a contradiction and asks a question, which is where we'll stop. V'savar Rabbi Yehuda b'kedusha kaima. And you're saying that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that she retains her sanctity, her virginity. That's where we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay.